Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of All Z Had. This podcast is to empower each other, empower our community and our generation by sharing valuable knowledge through authentic and meaningful conversations. Knowledge is in fact worthless if not shared and passed down generations. So here we share experiences, we share thoughts and ideas, we discuss theories, we question stories. All Z Had is for those who know just enough to know that they don't know enough. It's for those willing to share and actively learn from one another and looking to get a little bit better today than they were yesterday. It's for those who chase the small daily wins and view their life as a never-ending learning journey. Without further ado, let me please introduce my next guest. Camacho. Marcus is one of the most thoughtful people I know. He's a former basketball college athlete. He currently works in commercial real estate and is passionate about learning more and getting better every day. We talked about his basketball journey and his experience in finance and real estate. We shared books and lessons learned from 2020. We discussed fitness, nutrition, sleep, meditation, the uprise of psychedelics in our society, and all sorts of cool topics. We both had a lot of fun recording this episode, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. All right, yeah, cool. We're live. Marcus, man. Happy to have you here, Marcus. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. Happy it's the weekend.
It's the weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. We've been wanting to do this for a while. We talked about it last year already when we worked out. Let's start with simple, what you do, who you are. Just introduce yourself to us and the listeners.
Yeah, definitely. So, like you said, my name is Marcus. 25 now, getting up there. Just recently graduated from the program you're in now. I'm Crummer. So fresh out of grad school, now I'm in commercial real estate. It's my day job. Still try to stay active when I can, but that's my main focus right now. I was just working on my career.
Yeah. How do you like commercial real estate? How'd you come about that after so just so people know, you said Crummer, which is an MBA program, and then you graduated from Rollins. How'd you come about your commercial real estate position at this time?
Yeah, so while I was in my second year in the graduate program, Crummer does a cool thing where they let their alumni go to classes for life, audit classes. So my now boss was auditing one of my classes at the time.
Wow.
And then towards the end of the class, I did a project with him. Didn't really know what he did or like who he was yet, but towards the end, he reached out to the class and was like, "Hey, I'm looking for an intern." Simultaneously, I've always had the interest in real estate. I know what a great career it is, and like always something that people should touch on. So he was looking for an intern. I met with him for dinner one time and ended up taking that position. I still wasn't sure what I was going to do, so I was like, let me see where it leads. So fast forward a year and a half later, I'm still there. I really like it, man. It's almost like putting together a puzzle. You know, when you look at real estate, especially commercial, I mean, you're seeing what's there, what's not there, what will fit. You're looking through demographics and different factors, right, that play into putting that perfect puzzle piece right there in that location. So I really like it. I enjoy it so far.
That's a good way to put it. I like that puzzle metaphor because it's true. And like you said, real estate is something that's been, an industry that everybody who's quote unquote successful or financially successful recommends to get into. I mean, artists get into real estate. Any kind of investors has some real estate in their portfolio. Kudos, man. That's good. So that's your 9 to 5, right? Yeah. I know that I've watched your Snapchat stories when we were in college, and I remember you saying, my parents said, or I told my parents, or I told my family, it's either NBA or MBA. So talk to me about your life as a college athlete, and talk to me about how you went through that student athlete experience, and just how you've come about where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, probably much like yourself, grew up an athlete. I've always been involved in sports. So I was good enough to make it to the level of college. which I'm very fortunate for. Um, Played like my whole life up until probably a year ago. So that was a big portion of my life, man. And it's so you're talking about. I mean, we might touch on this later, but we're talking about purpose, right? And trying to find that. And I would be lying if I told you I've absolutely nailed it so far. You know, I'm still trying to figure that out because
Of course.
when you're an athlete, especially to the level that we're at, that's your life. So it's tough when you get to a point where it's like, well, I'm not gonna be in the NBA playing with pros. So now what? What do you do? So I got to that point like my senior year, and I was like, man, like I remember going to an interview for like some sales job, and I'm like, this isn't me, but this seems like this is what I have to do. It just felt off, and then I came to the idea like, let me take the GMAT, let me see maybe I can go into Crummer and get into grad school. So
Wow.
I did that. Ended up getting in, which I was ecstatic about, and I was able to play basketball for one more year. But within that, I was able to, learn more about myself, learn what I'm good at, and even see the concept of business way differently. So
Yeah.
that's where that slogan NBA or NBA came from, because
Yeah.
it was like my whole life, it was like basketball, right? That was my main focus. And then it got to a point where I was like, well, that's might not be the reality. So how can I turn that? How can I move forward from here in a different direction that's still going forward, but it might not be what the original plan was?
Yeah, man, you just touched on so many good things right now. Like you said, like we, as growing up, dedicating our lives to that athletic, whatever sports we play, athletic lifestyle, and then, we become identified with it from our friends, from our peers, but also so much that we identify ourselves. If I were to ask you, 3-5 years ago, hey Marcus, who are you? You'd say I'm a basketball player. And if you ask me, I'd say I'm a tennis athlete. But you won't say, I go to school, or you won't say I'm an entrepreneur or any of that. But I'm glad that you found a way to, I guess, apply that athlete mindset, that competitiveness into the corporate world. I think that's the biggest takeaway from any sports that we play. Just put it into perspective and take they're transferable skills that we apply into the corporate world. So did you have, I guess you kind of touched on that, but did you have any internship experiences in your undergraduate life? And how did you deal with, like you said, those change of plans? There must have been a day or a month in your life where you said, okay, I have to accept where I am today. I'm not gonna go pro, but how did that self-acceptance come by?
Yeah, I mean, so in my undergrad, I had one internship, and to be honest, I didn't accept it at that point. It was for a paycheck, right? And you can see, like, you can tell when someone's doing it because they love it, or that they have a passion for it, or if they're doing it for the money, because it's going to show in their work ethic. And I will be honest and say that my first internship wasn't my best internship because I was there for the wrong reasons. So then fast forward to Crummer, I had a few more internships in Crummer, and it was a different story. I was there for a reason. I took it a little bit more seriously. That was after I came to the realization that it's not going to be NBA.
Post self-acceptance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I had to go a different direction, but it was good because, I knew why I was there now. I wasn't just there so that I can have money to go out on the weekend with my friends. It was more so like, there's a step. This is the step that's going to take me somewhere else that I want to go.
Damn, that's big. This is a step. We often get stuck in that like perception that life is just what it is now, whereas there's always, it only makes sense when you look at it backwards. Like we're talking about today, about your past 6 years, and it makes a lot of sense. But if I had asked you maybe these questions 3 years ago, you'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing this for.
If I can expand on that, what we were talking about just now. So like, I was talking with a buddy the other day, and he was telling me how his son, he's trying to get him to like find that passion young, and he was saying how he loves creating things. So maybe he's going to be an engineer or that. And hobbies for sports is an interesting hobby because if you're not the best of the best, it has a definite end, where a lot of hobbies don't necessarily. You can find a way to make it a career. So with sports, it's like you get so intertwined with it and then it comes to that end at such a young age, and then it's like, now what? So
Yeah.
that's what I was kind of touching on, and
Yeah.
kind of want to give a precursor to that, because it's like, it's an interesting hobby. It's great if it works out for you and you're amazing at it. You're gonna make millions of dollars.
I was
Good
about to
for
say,
you.
yeah.
But if you don't, and that's the majority of people, they don't. It's like they're getting thrown into the world where it's like, I don't know myself other than this sport. It's interesting.
It's definitely the key from there is to, like we said, transfer the skills that you've learned in your field, your basketball court, your tennis court, and then put them on a corporate world, put them in a business perspective, and the better ones of, like, the best ones of us make it successful, right? They apply that competitive spirit, they apply that team collaborative spirit, they apply those skills onto the corporate world. I think it looks like, from what I know of you, that you've been able to do that so far, and you've been valuable to your organization, to your boss. Like you said, he saw the value and the worth that you bring into the table. So kudos, man. I'm happy to hear that. That takes us to, that's your 9 to 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
What drives you aside from that? What do you do in terms of personal projects? What's your 5 to 9?
Yeah, I mean, definitely just trying to educate myself. Still, like I said, haven't pinpointed that passion, but the hobby of sports, I touched on a lot of negative things, and you showed some positive of it, right? Like, you can take some positive things from that. So I think from my sports background and then the NBA background, I've tried to find a hybrid of, like, how can I make that work, right? There's a lot of things I can take from both. I still have that passion with sports. So, in the back of my mind, pursuing sports, maybe from the business side of it, has always been an idea. So kind of like entertaining that a little bit. But at the same time, yeah, just reading books and trying to learn on topics. I love to, if I hear something in a podcast or like talking with someone, I love to jot it down and then kind of research it, in my own time. So just trying to improve every day. Beat yesterday's Marcus and improve every
Amazing,
day.
bro.
Yeah.
2 things I want to say about that. Number one is, life is a never ending learning experience. So I'm glad that you embrace that spirit of learning more, discovering something new. And even if someone introduces that to you, whether through a podcast or a conversation or even just observing something, you go and make it your own learning. That's something that I strive to do every day. Be a better version of Ziad. And the second thing is Coach K. For anyone who doesn't know Coach K, one of the greatest coaches of all time, Duke. He also coaches the Olympic U.S. national team. But he says, one of my favorite quotes, he says, "If what you've done yesterday still looks great today, then you haven't done anything today." Something along those lines. I hope I didn't butcher it too much, but it makes sense. You always got to strive for better. And again, there's no end goal. The end goal is continuity and keep looking for higher milestones to reach. So I'm glad you look for your purpose while doing that. That's very exciting. I guess I wanted to ask you about 2020. We hung out a lot. We worked out. We lifted a lot of weights. We shared a lot of moments and experiences. What's your take on 2020? Was it an uplifting, defining year? Was it a depressive year on your end? What are your lessons from that?
I guess it depends how you look at it, man. Some people might say it was almost like a reset, right? I always try to look at the positive side of it, and it definitely allowed me to slow down for a second and kind of decide where I'm gonna go from here, because it changed everything, and everywhere around the world. It wasn't even something that was like a local thing.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good thing, man. It definitely got me into wanting to educate myself, where I never really took the time to like think about that and decide like, hey, this is important for me to do. My 5 to 9 you mentioned. So
yeah.
I thought overall it was an interesting year in the news and in the world. But for me, I think I made some I made some strides in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%. I'm on the same page as you. I call 2020 as my takeoff year. Mm-hmm. I took my own self to another level in terms of self-discipline. I've always been, I'm not an only child. I have siblings, but they are much older than me. My brothers are 14 years older. They're twins. My sister is 16 years older. So if you want to see the context, when I was 4, they were 18. and they took off to go study abroad, right? And then they came back 10 years later, 8 10 years later. I'm almost an adult, right? I'm a pubert teenager who's already gone through a lot of phases in life, who started like hanging out with girls, or who started doing his own thing. So I kind of grew up in a like solo kind of way. So I found my own ways. I didn't have that mentorship or brother leadership. But 2020 still helped me a lot more define my own self, setting up some new habits, setting up some new, I guess, rules for my own self. This is what I want to do every day. This is what I don't want to do every day. This is what I should not be doing. On your end, what are some of those, I guess, new habits or new lessons? I like to see it as what are you taking and what are you leaving behind?
Yeah, so I was gonna say like 2020 definitely was the year of, and I'm gonna answer your question, but I was gonna just to say this before. 2020 was definitely a year of self-reflection, right, for everyone, because it slowed everyone down. So you could take that self-reflection and like compound it into negative thoughts, or you can take it and readjust what you're doing. So that was definitely something I did, and I realized how much time I was wasting on like nonsense, like content, like this TV and YouTube and stuff, and I was like, how can I channel this into actually learning something, actually getting better at something, understanding certain concepts, so I can overall improve my decisions every day and my thinking. So I think that was the biggest thing for me.
And so, what are some of those habits? I know you've mentioned that you dove into like was it what, financial investing or stocks investing? What are some of those new things that you realized? Oh shoot, I want to keep doing more of this.
Yeah, finance is definitely, or investing is definitely something that I wanted to educate myself on more. I think right now we're still relatively young, and time is on our side. And the more time you have, the
Yes,
better you
sir.
can be at investing. If you know what you're doing, you're understanding that. So another thing is like if you understand a concept yourself, you can't be manipulated by anything, by an external system. Or so if you understand your own finances, you understand how it works and the system that we're in, the U.S. government, then you can navigate it better. You can make the right choices. And like with apps like Robinhood
Yeah.
that I use personally, and millions of others use it, like it puts the power in the individual investor, right? So you don't need to go to a brokerage firm and be like, hey, can you handle my money for me? Like, no, you can teach yourself, you can learn and do it yourself. So that's definitely been one thing. Another thing is, like I touched on just a second ago, is just changing like being more aware of how I spend my time,
Cool.
being more objective about my tasks during the day. I think it makes my day go smoother if I'm doing this at this time, this at this time, just staying organized. And then in the downtime, instead of just watching something that will not help you at all, so like just watching like some comedy show, or you can watch like a documentary and learn about something. I still watch the comedy
I was
show every
about to
now and
say,
then,
yeah.
but when I get the chance to, I love to learn. I mean, it's so important, like you were saying.
Yeah, I don't believe in wasting time, right? There's no time wasted. The only time that you really kind of waste is the time where you're not conscious of what you're doing, you're not present in that moment. If you choose to watch a comedy show or a, let's say, useless type of content where you're just, almost not learning anything, it could be to spend quality time with someone. It could be to spend quality time with yourself. It could be to just lay back and kick it because you don't want to be, I don't know, using up too much of your brain at that time. But definitely making most of your day, tasking it up, listing. I love writing down lists and checking them off. Like
Right.
do this in the morning, even if it's like wash the dishes kind of thing. Um, One thing that you touched on is being that more efficient with the usage of your time. I started stretching while watching TV. It could be anything on TV, but I'm just on the floor stretching, recovering. I strain my body every day. I'd rather recover when I can, not just recover on, I guess, dedicate a special time for it. I can quote unquote multitask. And stretching I think is super important regardless. But I mean, it's cool that you have all these takeaways, and I'm sure you have more. We'll touch on them. Talk to me about some of the books you read in 2020. I like you and I shared before, I was not a big reader. When we had readings in school, I did not want to read, but also, I was not motivated. I don't want to read a book that someone told me to do, to read, but I started finding some books that are more interesting to me, and just I read about 6 or 7 books in 2020, and I don't think I've read that many books in one year prior to that. Talk to me about some of the books you read.
Man, I'm the exact same way, and we were talking about that now. I before this year, I barely read. If I had a reading assignment, I did the bare minimum to get that assignment done. And then now this year, man, I have a full bookcase full of books, and we were talking earlier about like I'm not buying another book until I finish those books. I told myself that.
Yeah, I got like a big list here, just waiting to be read.
So for books I've read, I read a Robert Greene book, and he has a series of books that I was telling you about. So the book's called Mastery, which is probably one of my favorite books. It kind of talks about the 10,000 hour rule, like perfecting a craft. It means putting in time, being patient, and being consistent.
Key.
So that was a really, really good book, and all of his books are amazing. There's so many takeaways from all his books. I think it's the 6th book, which is like an external book outside of his collection.
Gotcha.
And it's a book with 50 Cent, which was actually really
No.
cool. It was amazing because it was like taking Robert Greene's theories and knowledge, and then taking like in the business world, and then taking 50 Cent's like street smarts and kind of intertwining them. Amazing book, man.
I mean, 50 Cent is a smart guy too, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's very smart. What is he? Music artist, producer, movie actor, business owner, entrepreneur, and I mean, he's just life survivor. How many bullets has been shot? 9? 9, one in the face?
He's a cat.
He's a cat.
Yeah.
I love 50. Okay, so Robert Greene, thank you for that. I took notes of it. What else? I know you read Malcolm X's book.
Yeah,
I know you read other books. Tell me.
The wild stories and everything going on this year, it was like, I need to learn more about this. And so I read Malcolm X's book, which is a great autobiography, but not only is it like talking about, racial inequality, but it's also a very good motivational book, because this guy, he was getting death threats on the daily because of his beliefs, and he still persevered and didn't let fear like shy him away from what he truly believed in. So I feel like anybody can take away from that book, even if the goal isn't learning about racial inequality. So that was a good book. And then the second book I read right around that time was the New Jim Crow Laws.
Yeah.
The New Jim Crow. It's a good book because it kind of talks about how.
Tell me about what the Jim Crow laws, because before you told me about it, I was not really aware of it, and I'm sure a lot of my friends might not be. Tell me about that.
So in the history in this country, some people may say that we've always had different versions of slavery, even to today. Right. So we had slavery, and then that got outlawed. Then we had Jim Crow laws, which was basically segregation. Whites and blacks couldn't share things. So then that got outlawed, right? And then the government at that time declared a war on drugs.
Right.
Making stricter laws for possession of drugs, use of drugs. Simultaneously, we had the crack epidemic that was surging into the U.S. from the South. So it was being diluted within our cities.
Right.
So as that was happening, all these majority of minorities, the minorities were the majority that were being arrested and putting into penitentiaries for these small little drug charges and going there for life.
I mean, we still have today people in jail for possessing a gram of marijuana or something. They had like a year. I mean, I've seen documentaries about that. Sorry, keep going. So that's after the war on drugs. I'm thinking 60s through 80s kind of thing, 70s through 80s.
So then you start seeing all these private prisons popping up, which people can make money off these private institutions because they're not government owned, they're not public, and so then they're popping up everywhere. The numbers are spiking. I don't have the exact statistics with me, but it's an astounding number, and there's so many documentaries on it that you can learn more about it. But basically it was just kind of showing us how, at least their take on it is how slavery has just been transformed into different modes, even though it's not slavery anymore. There's always like a new name for it, and they kind of navigate that. So it's an interesting book.
So that's another book. Well, before we move on to any other books that you've read, I want your take on this. What? How did you feel about Kanye when he said that slavery is still happening today? You know what I'm referring to? I had no idea how to take that statement. Right? It was last year or 2 years ago. How do you feel about that? Like, did that come too controversial on your end? Was he just very raw and honest about it? He was hated by everyone.
Kanye's like says a lot of things because I don't think he ever has a thought that he's like, let me just like think about that a little bit longer. But like, I think a lot of things he says have a little bit of truth into it. I don't think it's necessarily a choice, but I think that the problems that we're having even till today are so deeply rooted that people can't see it on the surface.
Facts.
So I don't know if I'm gonna stand by him like I agree with him on that. But there's definitely some truth in it.
There's some truth in it, yeah. Like you said, I mean, we're living it in a different way. And on my end, I mean, I came to the US about 5 years ago, and I was just talking to Jazz about it on a previous episode. I think that it's implemented in our speeches. When I say our, I'm just including myself in the society, right? But I think it's implemented in just our society in general, our culture, and it's so deeply rooted that you can't pinpoint where it is. You just see it happening, I'm glad that we talk about this. I'm glad that it's a topic of not in interest, but a topic of like actuality, right? We're talking about it right now. We got to be better as human beings. We got to be better as a society, and we got to just, I always say this: life is meant to be a team sport where we help each other and not like compete against each other. I'm a big I'm a faithful person. I'm Muslim, but I believe that God has made everything for us. There's plenty for all of us, and nature's got it all for us. There's plenty for us all. There's no need to compete for any of it. You can't say that seat is for the white or that seat is for the black or whatever. You just, all of it is for us all. I don't know. That's just my take on it in general.
And that's why I think education's so important because, like, here in the U.S., I mean, we're like a melting pot, right? So
facts.
You get a Caucasian man or woman, and they're like, well, I work with black people or minorities, and I work, or my best friend is that, right? So it's like they don't realize that it's not necessarily what they're doing. But it's like if you learn and you educate yourself, you realize like, oh wow, our government did this, and then this is happening, and you look at the numbers, and it's like this is very real, even if on a day-to-day basis you're not sitting here throwing out the N-word.
Right.
So it's not just about like how you personally feel or how many people feel about someone of a different race. It's like the system that we're in, and that's why I think the biggest message that, although there was a lot of hate and anger involved in it. I think that was what the biggest message was. This is what we want changing. It's not like your personal opinion, but it's more the system that is still outdated by a lot.
Facts. And I think it starts from within. As individuals, personally, nobody's got to agree with me, but it starts from within. You just question your own self and say, how can I be a better friend to this person? How can I be a better citizen? How can I be a better leader to my, community? Yeah. You touched on the N-word. And I want to say this. I've told my friends about it, but I'm excited to say this on the podcast. I used to use the N-word all the time, and whoever dared to tell me, "Oh, you can't do that," I was so ego fueled that I would say, "What do you even know? I'm from Africa." That's what I would say. That would be the reaction. And I was so unaware of what the actual meaning was and how deeply rooted it was. But again, I was just trying to look cool, sound like the rappers, sound like American pop culture, and I was using it as in a transition kind of word, And one of my big takeaways from 2020 is just quit using that word. Just believe that it almost doesn't exist.
It's tough. It's so intertwined with our culture, and it's what's hot now,
culture.
Right? So it just seems like it's part of the language. But again, it brings me back to education. If you understand the history of this country, or
what it refers
to, then it's all about just understanding the situation. So.
And to touch back on that, I mean, even in French culture, it's deeply rooted.
Yeah.
They use it as well, and French rappers and stuff.
Yeah.
and I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's okay. So quit using that word if you ever are. Just forget it, man. Just forget it. Just be a kind person. But any more books that you've read? I want to say, like you shared with me, you have The Power of Habit in your library, but you still haven't read it. I repeat it to everybody that it's one of the best books I've read. So when you read it, let's definitely talk more about it. But tell me if you've read any other books.
There was a book that my dad gave me years and years ago, and I just got around to finishing it. And it's a finance book. It's probably, if you want to get into finance, this is the first book you should read. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon.
The Richest Man in Babylon.
So it's a short little book, and it feels like you're reading Romeo and Juliet. But
Oh.
like the language or the writing is definitely, it's a tough read, but the lessons you learn from that book are timeless. Like they talk about this ancient city in Babylon, and they have this man whose name's Arcad, and he's the richest man in Babylon, right? And so these people go to him and they're like, hey, like, teach me your secrets. How is this going? Like, how are you doing this? And he's like, I'll teach you, but I'm not going to give you money. Like, I'm going to teach you the rules. So he has this clay tablet, and it has a bunch of rules on it, like pay everything. A portion of everything you earn is yours to keep, and so it's things that like can be applied to today.
To like budgeting,
Yeah,
to financing
budgeting.
your life
So
and
a lot
stuff.
of people think like they get money, the more they make, the more they spend, and if they have a credit card, they got to pay it all up, and it's like, well, at the end of the day, if you do all that, you're gonna go months down the road, you're gonna have nothing for yourself.
Facts.
So that's the first rule there. Other ones are like, you wouldn't go to a farmer to talk about jewelry, right? To get advice on jewelry, right? So it's saying like when you get advice, like for investing or anything, make sure you go to an expert in that field before you take that advice. I don't want to get too much into it. Definitely, it's a cool read. I recommend it, but that was another book I read that is
defining.
It's definitely helped me and changed the way I look at money.
Cool. I'll definitely give that a read. If it's, like you said, if it's an easy read, and I like that you said it's like Romeo and Juliet, just written in like the old language, I guess.
That's the best way I can put it.
Richest Man in Babylon. Okay. And like you said, he won't give it to you, but he'll teach you how to do it. That's one thing that I go about with my where I am today. On my social media content, I post my workouts, I post my like what I eat and stuff, but I don't just say that this is the universal way to do it. I'm an advocate of the fact that you need to adjust all of that stuff to your own lifestyle, to your own preferences, and to your own personal goals, what you're trying to get out of it. And I would, if I were to ever be like a fitness trainer or some kind of, in that field, I would never sell a workout. I would probably sell a way to build your own workouts, or to put together a workout for your own self based on how much time you have, how much performance you want to get out of it, what kind of feeling you want to get when you leave the gym or when you leave the workout space. Like Denzel says, each one teach one. There's no value if I just give you something and tell you, hey, come back again and I'll give you another one. And talk about that. Let's touch on it, man. What's your fitness lifestyle looking like? I mean, we've worked out together several times. We're probably gonna do it again. Next week, next month, sure, whatever. We're gonna get after it. By the way, remember the first time we lifted, you were hammering me in bench press. I could not get the 225 more than like once. I maxed on bench earlier this year. I think I hit like 265 or something. Awesome. That just means that since we worked out last year, I kind of progressed, which is, it's self-motivating. I'm pumped about it.
I'm not even surprised though, man. I knew that you're consistent with it, so it's...
I found that balance, man. I found a good balance of lifting, eating well, lifting in a good, purpose-driven, I don't just walk in a gym and do, today I'm going to do chest, or today I'm going to do that. I always have, percentages, weights, rest times and stuff, because, I'm performance driven. My goal is to live the life of an athlete. Simple reason why: it makes me feel like who I am, regardless of what I do. Like we said, the 9 to 5 or whatever. In order for me to be in the right mindset, in the right, state to perform well in my day to day, I need to feel like I'm a competitor. I need to
Yeah.
feel like I'm a champion of what I do. That's why I go with performance driven kind of stuff. I don't just go and watch myself in the mirror and have a fun time at the gym. I go there for, I'm an athlete and this is what I do, and it helped me just find that drive every day.
That's
I'm
good.
excited to go to the gym. It's never is hard word to use, but it's 90% of the time it's fun to get up and say, yes, I got this workout today, or even the night before. I got legs tomorrow, baby.
Yep.
What's your fitness looking like?
Before I get into me, I wanted to ask you, man, because I wanted to ask, like, what made you flip the switch? Like, you've always been athletic, tennis was your thing, but probably like a year and a half ago, or maybe even longer, but when I started noticing it, you like unleashed that inner beast. You've always been a beast, but like you have started applying that. What made you switch that? What made you flip the switch?
That's a good question, man, and I think I want to link it to a lot of things. We said earlier 2020 was a takeoff year for me, right? I am grateful that I didn't fall into substances or fall into an outside external thing when it came to COVID and when it came to solo time. But I came out of a long-term relationship in December 2019 and realized how much I had just like let myself go, right? Like you said, I've always been an athlete, but then, for the most part, senior, post-grad, I was just, letting go of my dietary like lifestyles. I was just eating a lot of fast food, a lot of sugar, and enjoying myself. I was like, oh, I don't need to perform on a court anymore, so I don't need to eat well anymore. And then slowly, gradually started losing a sense of self. So that's like a number one thing. I realized that in order to feel like myself again, I needed to get back to that groove of getting after it. And slowly started building that, what you touched on, the consistency. It never starts with consistency. I think, who said that? Maybe Denzel too. Commitment will get you started, and consistency is what keeps you going. Commitment always is gonna look different. Today it's sunny, the next day it's rainy. There's a big difference in between the two. If you're a runner or if you're a tennis player or whatever, it looks very different for your brain. But with the commitment, you don't see any difference. David Goggins?
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't see any difference. He actually gets motivated when it's raining. He's like, oh, it's raining? Motherfucker, let's go run, So that's number one. I think that just redefining myself through health was number one. Number two was, I don't know what this noise is, but it's all good. I think it's from outside, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Number two was the fact that I've always been like that. I started lifting weights at age 14, 15 for tennis purposes and also for look good purposes. I remember 9th, 10th grade, I was in the back of my class, in the classroom, not caring about what the teacher says and looking at Instagram posts, writing down workouts. And at 10 p.m. after my tennis trainings and stuff, 9:30 p.m. I would hit the gym in my neighborhood, hang out with my friends. I would literally be the last one leaving the gym every day, Monday through Friday. And I had my own workouts ever since then. And also my mom would make fun of me for the amount of egg whites I eat, the amount of egg yolks I throw away. I was weighing my turkey, I was weighing my chicken, my rice. And that started back then. And then in 2020, when I came for the first time living by myself, moved out of my ex-girlfriend's apartment and moved by myself, I was like, why don't I just go back to that? It helped me budget my food, budget my daily life. It's much easier when you eat what your body needs, Imagine you're filling up your gas tank and you overflow it every time, right? That's what most of us do when we just overeat and also undernourish ourselves. So that was another thing. I wanted to get back to that weighing my food, proportioning, counting my macros. People call it count your macros. I call it just living kind of, correctly or in an accurate way. And from there, I started meal prepping. I was making 20 meals a week, 20 meals on one day.
It
or
takes
20.
a lot of patience, man. I've tried that. I've failed many times.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm getting to. I didn't like it. It was not fulfilling. I was just looking over my pictures and would spend 4 hours on a Sunday making 20, 30 meals, and by Wednesday I wouldn't want to eat that stuff anymore. It's too cold in the fridge, the rice is too hard, and the shrimp doesn't taste good anymore. So today, like I said, I found a good balance in, I call it meat prep. So when I buy meat in bulk, I portion it into like plate portions. So I plate up my food every time around a big portion of protein, about 40 or 50 grams per meal. And so I have that in ground beef, I have that in turkey, I have that in chicken, I have that in eggs, egg whites, and I just cook every day. So I have my stuff in the freezer. I pull out 2 or 3 servings overnight. The next day they're unfrozen or defrosted, and I cook. In the morning I cook 2-3 meals, and that's it. I have my food for the day. Through that I build a passion for cooking. That's why I post all of my meals. I try to plate them up, make them colorful.
Yeah.
That literally took so long, but if anyone wants to take any learning experience from this, is get started and find your own process, man. It doesn't have to be similar to anybody else's, but you can't figure it out if you don't try, if you don't do the trial and error process. Like I said, I was meal prepping and that shit sucked. Now I just meat prep once every 3 weeks, and I have meats. I have like 30 or 40 portions of meats ready to go, and that makes my food.
Nice.
That's what helps me go back to the gym again. That really is, really.
I definitely admire that, man, because that's something I've always tried and failed. But I never thought, and as simple as it is, I never thought of the idea of portioning it, freezing it, and then cooking it when you're ready. Because I've always thought, like, okay, portion it, cook it all now. And exactly like you're saying, by Wednesday it's disgusting. Like, you're just tired of eating it. So that's a good idea. I might try to take that.
Yeah, 100%. And find your own. I mean, you're taller than me. I don't know if you want to get bigger or smaller or leaner or whatever. That's your own purposes. Find the amount of protein you want to eat a day. If anyone's listening to this and wants to know how to go about it, just find how much protein you want in your body. Here's how I put it. Your body is like a building. Do you want your building to be built of bricks mostly? Do you want it to be built of wood mostly? Or do you want it to be built of, I don't know, cement and some weird substances, right? I call protein the strongest bricks. So I want most of my body to be built of bricks. That way it doesn't fall apart. That way it's strong. That way it's got a healthy immune system. And that's why I built all of my plates around protein. If there's no protein in my plate, it's not a meal. It's like half a snack, or it's a cheap meal or something. And find the amounts that you want to touch on a day. Spread it around how many meals you're able to fit in. If you're only able to eat 2 meals, if you want to do intermittent fasting, if you want to eat 4 meals like I do every day, do that. And hit that amount of protein every day. Fats are super important for your life, bro. If you don't have enough fats, if you think that reducing fats is going to make you look better or feel better, you're wrong. Like, fats are essential to organ health. They're essential for brain. They're essential for your kidneys to function.
You gotta change the name of it, because if people, they hear fat and they're like, oh, no.
Essential fats. It's called essential fats for a reason. You need your omegas, you need your MCTs, you need all of that to function better as a human being. And quite honestly, I work out so much better when I have literally just a little bit of fats and a little bit of protein. I don't even need any sugar with that. You could have like maybe a scoop of honey or something with that, but you need proteins and fats, and your body goes out of survival mode. If you don't have enough fats in your system, your body's gonna think that, like we're hunters and gatherers. Your body's gonna think that you're still looking for food. You know what I mean? And you're still hunting, so it's not gonna consume a lot of calories. That's the most takeaway. And then the third component is carbs, that we all find struggle balancing. Carbs are based on your performance goals, man. If you're gonna run a lot and burn a lot of calories every day, then you want to eat carbs because it helps you energize your body. It gives your body, it helps with that ATP production in your system. ATP is the energy that you need to digest and transfer nutrients into your muscles. If you just eat carbs and don't consume them, then your body is gonna translate or convert those carbs into what it knows, which is fat cells, and it's gonna store it in your iClouds. I call it the iClouds. We all have a different spots for iClouds. Some have the love handles, some have neck cheeks or whatever. Some have it in their like chest or boobies. Some have it in their butt. Like everybody's got different iCloud spaces. So if you have excess of glucose, your body's gonna translate that and try to store it for later usage. That's how it works. So proteins is the main component. Fats is super essential. Carbs are based on your performance goals / lifestyle. That's my take on it. And I'm still learning. I haven't, this may be completely wrong, but this is what I learned so far. What else are we touching on in terms of fitness? I mean, that's pretty much what I've learned so far, man.
As for me, I'll go through my journey with it a little bit. So back in high school or before Rollins, I was never really that into fitness. I mean, I played basketball, so I was naturally just active, but I never really I didn't lift. It just didn't. It wasn't something that piqued my interest, or I even realized that was something that would be important for me to do. So I remember coming in right before I was coming in to college. I remember telling my dad, I was like, "Oh, I want to get up to I was always 185, 180, 185."
That's where I'm at
skinny,
today. That's where I'm at today.
And I remember telling my dad, I want to get up to 215, all muscle, right? So I got to school and I started working out hard. I was consistent with it. And I got to the 215, but I was also eating like shit.
By the way, if anyone is listening, 215 pounds is about 100 kilograms, which is pretty heavy.
Okay. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, man, I just want to be solid. And I started lifting every day and I got to 215, but I was not eating right. So it wasn't the right 215. So then I'm 6'3" on a good day. So, in college basketball, that's one of the shortest guys on the team.
Yeah. Steph is what? Steph Curry is what? 6'2", 6'1", 6'3"?
6'3". And so for my size, and I started playing the power forward position. I was playing the big man position just because I was so big, I couldn't move, right? So I was just up that big. It's still, at that time, I didn't even realize what I was doing. And then my sophomore year, I ended up breaking my foot. Now I realize that was a cause of my weight, right? You can't play athletics. A lot of people can't play especially basketball at that weight and my size. So it was just it was hard for me to play, right? So as I was sitting there broken foot, I think I even got up to 230 at that point. I was the heaviest I've ever been, but taking me away from the sport and kind of having to reflect on that, I realized the importance of getting my weight down and staying at a healthy weight so that it could translate to the sport. So after that, it was just more self-awareness, and it allowed me to make better eating choices, be more consistent in the gym, and keep that weight down for a purpose. And that purpose was being able to do my job on the court.
Cool.
So ever since, and then now, I'm out of basketball, but now it's just kind of it's just so on my mind that it feels like it has to be a part of my day. It's not even something that I have to go out of my way to do. So I'm probably not as consistent with it now as I once was when I was playing, but I still try to make it something that I do, if not daily,
weekly at least. Yeah.
Multiple times a week.
Yeah, 100%, man. And touching on that, your body is, we've been growing, so we have joints that handle our weight, in our knees, ankles, and hips, and all that. Take the example of fighters. There's a science behind changing weight classes, bro. There is a team behind you that teaches you and trains you so that your body doesn't break if you take on 10 pounds, 20 pounds. And we're out here just trying to get bulky, eating more rice, eating more chicken, eating more of that without knowing that there's other stuff that comes with it, And that's what happened most mainly. That's what caused that foot injury or something.
Yeah.
I am such an I was blind at first when I first started lifting. I was just I want to get bulkier and then cut. I want to bulk up and then lean up for the summer and then nah, man, your body's got a composition that it holds. And to be a little bit more transparent again, I was always watching my weight and I'm at 80 kilograms now. I want to get to 85 by the end of the year, and then get at 10%, below 10% body fat, etc. Today, I look at myself in the mirror and I say, damn, I feel good. Damn, this feels good. My body's light. I can sprint, but I can also go lift, 225 pounds. I can go squat it down and not hurt my joints. I think that's the biggest key. Not not that key metric that we have on a scale, or the thing that takes your body mass index or whatever. So just keep that in perspective. It's not about how you look. I want to close this topic by saying that when you feel good is when you look good, and not the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You will look good after you feel good within yourself, One thing I want to touch on is different practices. I know you after you listened to my first podcast episode, you reached out to me about XPT Life. And that's something that I learned from a friend, John. He's a mentor, and I'm so honored to call him a friend today. He taught me the importance of breathing practices, and I do it every day along with my meditation.
Okay.
Do you practice any of that?
I don't. I mean, we had a brief conversation about that, but it's definitely something I want to get into. And you touched, if you can elaborate on it now, but you touched on the importance of it and the benefits that you feel from it.
Yeah. I don't even know that much about it. I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still in that learning process, but we're sleeping as a society. We're sleeping on the importance of breathing practices, levels that you can reach through breathing. Yeah, we just took a little break. The camera shut off from the battery, but so the rest of this episode is gonna be audio only. We were talking about breathing practices, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I'm still learning that. Definitely XPT Life has been a good way for me to learn more about levels of, how to put it, like consciousness, and levels of states of mind that you could reach through breathing.
So it goes hand in hand with meditation then?
100%. 100%. Monks reach high levels of consciousness through breathing patterns. There's a book called Breathe. I forgot the name of the author, but it's called Breathe. Just look that up. It's super important. It's super explanatory about these kind of breathing practices. But I can't expand on it as much because I don't know much about it. But here's what I do. Most mornings, I do an 8-minute morning routine that wakes my entire body up. So the idea is to sit yourself in a way where you can breathe correctly, where your back is straight and your lungs are wide open, and you breathe everything driven through the belly. So breathing in through the nose, expanding the belly, holding your breath for a second, and then making sure that your exhale is the double length of your inhale.
Okay.
So I start with a pattern that's 4-8, 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. And there's different practices. There's people who do the 6-3-9, so 6 seconds in, 3-second hold, 9 seconds out. And
you've seen I think it's like a square method or something, or like a pyramid, right? Where you inhale for, I think you were saying, you inhale for a certain period, you hold for a certain period, and then you exhale for a certain period.
Yeah, and there's not one pattern.
Yeah.
Every different patterns can be applied to reach different states of mind or body. There's in this XPT Life app, it's been created by this guy called Laird Hamilton. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's an advocate of breathing practices and also how to reach a certain stimuli, or how to use a stimuli, how to stimulate your body through breathing, through ice baths, through all of that, and that you can recover your own cells. You can make your body recover better through these practices. And first of all, why not do it, right? It's your own body, you're breathing. And second, you just realize how important breathing is. We take it for granted because we learn it as literally the first skill as babies, right? We come out and we start breathing. And there's just a lot of depth into it. So I have my morning routine that do most days. I have a pre-workout routine. I don't always do it, but sometimes if I skip my morning routine and I feel kind of rough getting to the gym, I do a 5-minute breathing pattern before getting on my workout. I don't do any C4 or any pre-workout substances. I only do caffeine, and I get to the gym. Sometimes I do a 5-minute breathing pattern where it's more mouth exhales and it's more of a where your body just oxygenates. You oxygenate a lot of, you put a lot of oxygen into your muscles and bloodstream, and your body's just ready to go.
Yeah.
And like I told you earlier, there's one that I do midday where if I'm just feeling tired, not able to do things, most of my friends would go take a nap. I don't believe in naps. I take maybe one nap every 6 months. Like, I don't even sleep as much. So I don't take naps, but I do take a 10-minute...
That's a Drake quote, right? You don't take naps.
I don't take naps. Yeah, you're right. You're so right.
That's good.
Yeah, so I don't do naps, but I do like 8-minute, 10-minute breathing patterns in midday to re-energize. And then there's an end of the day cool down, man. Changing your pre-bed routine will change your life. I swear, if you establish like a 15-minute thing that you do every day before going to bed, you'll just sleep a lot better. And like I said, in college, I used to never sleep. Like most of my friends would come to me and say, how do you even like have this much energy after sleeping 3 hours or 4 hours? Like we said, student athletes, we had practice, etc. And then you're at the library till midnight, 1 a.m. And then the next day you're at 5:30 at the gym, I was okay with it, but now I'm realizing how important sleep is. So I'm so keen about getting to bed by a certain time. Like, you'd find me, I'll be super hard to reach after 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And you know that about me. I'm in bed by 9:30 for most days.
That's good.
As much as I can, of course, Sleep is super important, man. It's the only stage in your life where you're restoring cells in your body. All the rest, we're on brain damage. We're consuming calories, we're consuming neurons, and if you want to... Sleep is the cousin of death is a big lie that we tend to believe. Sleep is actually the cousin of longevity. But that's something that I learned recently, and I'm still learning on.
That's good. Yeah, it's great that you're doing that. I mean, I haven't considered the breathing part aspect, and that's great. I mean, I know that it only helps your energy levels, but not only that, it helps with anxiety. Situational anxiety, and there's so many benefits to it, but I don't practice it on daily, and I need to. So thank you for
if you want to get started, start with the 639.
Okay.
Whenever you feel like some kind of stress at work, and this is for you and for anyone listening. Actually, a girl that I hung out with a couple of times last year told me about is it 639 or 649? I can't remember, but if you're feeling stressed about something or angry, or maybe you're in traffic and you literally feel that frustration in your body, breathe 10 times, 639. So count to 6, breathing in, hold your breath for 3, and exhale slowly for 9. Do that 10 times, and you'll see how different you will feel after. So what's 6 plus 3 plus 9? That's 18. 18 times 10, that's 180. That's what, like 3 minutes?
Yeah.
So you'll be so surprised after 3 minutes how you've gone from frustrated to calm as shit. 3 minutes, you guys. 3 minutes, bro. It's nothing. And I do that in the shower. I do cold showers. I control my nervous system through breathing. Easy, bro. Not easy, sorry. Simple. It's difficult, but it's simple, That's my formula. Find your own formula and share with us whenever you guys want. What else are we gonna touch on? We're getting close to an hour mark. Psychedelics, man. Have you ever done any psychedelics? What's your take on psychedelic substances? Just talk to me about it.
So I have some experience with it in the past, and I'm an advocate for it if it's regulated and you know what you're taking. I know we got some news up in Oregon. They just Would they
legalized.
decriminalize it or legalize it fully?
I think Colorado legalized
Okay.
psilocybin. Psilocybin is the substance in mushrooms.
Right.
I don't know if Oregon let it go all the way or decriminalized, but either way, I think it's a big advancement.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, I don't know too much about psychedelics, but I do, from experience, I can tell you some of the benefits. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, like just the confidence and the uplifting mood that it brings you. If you do it in small batches, like microdosing. So I think in a controlled way, if you take that on daily, and you're knowledgeable of it, I think there's many benefits to it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm no expert either. I've had few experiences with psychedelics. Friends of mine introduced mushrooms, and we did what's called a mushroom trip, where you consume them and then you quote unquote trip for a few hours. I think it's very ego revealing. If you have any insecurities, any fears, you gotta face that, and you come out of it grown, a new man, a new person, a stronger person. You face those fears. And I've gone through a little microdosing experience for a couple of weeks. I was taking maybe 200 milligrams of psilocybin in the morning. You don't even feel any difference in your body or in your brain, but some days I would snap and say, oh, look at that, I'm so present in this moment. I am so creative. Skip that fear of judgment. You don't perceive that people, the biggest takeaway for me is that life is not all about you, even though it always seems that it's about you. We always think that the universe is doing this to me. These people are looking at me this way. Nah, bro, you don't matter that much. People's got their own life. They got their own shit going on. I think it's just eye-opening in general, and I'm super excited to see the advancements that are gonna come out of it. I mean, I've only tried psilocybin in my life, and I heard about DMT. I heard about ayahuasca in different podcasts.
Stuff, man. I don't know.
DMT is a substance that your brain produces. Yeah. That's why we dream.
Right. It's released when you pass as well, I think.
Yes, I did not know that. Yeah. That's interesting. But when dream states are reached through DMT. And I mean, I've never done it, but there is LSD and there's all of that. I've never had the balls to do it. To be quite honest with you, I've never had the balls to do that. But I'm interested to see the advancements that are gonna come out. I'm super excited to see if there's any sciences released recently in the future. But I guess we'll talk about it another time when there's more info and more real, scientific stuff about it.
It's a unique experience, man, and so before ever trying that, I was always a very black and white thinker. I wouldn't say I'm an atheist, but I was always kind of questioning the idea of that and spirituality and all that stuff. After experiencing that, it makes you be like, wait a minute, maybe it's not all black and white. Maybe there is something else there that we're just not seeing, that our mind isn't capable of allowing us to perceive, and that kind of brings that into play. So it's definitely a unique experience, man.
Maybe we don't know it all, man.
Exactly.
Maybe we have no idea, bro.
No, don't tell me that, man.
Man, you asked me a question the other time earlier when we were talking, and I liked it. I mean, first of all, do you have any questions for me? I think we're getting close to ending this. Do you have any questions for me? Do you want to? You asked me already about nutrition and fitness, and I really appreciate your interest in that.
If we're coming to a close, I got a few ones just for fun.
Yeah.
Just for my personal curiosity. What was your favorite book of all time that you've read?
Favorite book of all time? Gosh, I've spoken about The Power of Habit so much that I feel bad at this time. Yeah. But you guys all know how much of an advocate for that book I am.
Gotcha. The
Power of Habit, The Power of Now were two very revealing books in my most recent.
Both of those collecting dust in my closet. I gotta pull them out today.
100%, man. I mean, they're right here. I go back to them. I have notes and highlights that I go back to. Power of Habit is so key. I don't even want to talk about it again. I've spoken about it in the previous two podcasts. And funnily, I said I'm gonna talk about it again. So I wouldn't be surprised if I do that another time. But one book that motivated me to be a better self is Rafa Nadal's book. So I've always grown as a Rafa Nadal fan. I always bought his outfits. I wear bandanas on the court. I, grew my hair to look like him. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I read his book. It's actually right here. And I have so many notes about it, man. It's phenomenal. It just told me so much about how vulnerable he is, how important it is to have people around you that support what you do. You can go far, you can go fast if you go alone, but if you go together, you go very far. And he doesn't come from a perfect world either, I mean, he there's so many losses that he took in his life. There's so many things that we don't know because the media doesn't talk about it. And it revealed a lot to me. It really did. He broke his foot early in his career after winning the Australian Open in 2008. His parents divorced. And up until then, he's always perceived his family as like a perfect home. His parents loving each other, loving him. And he flies back from Australia having just beaten Federer. In 2008, Nadal was just like, I think, 22 or 23.
Yeah. And
he beat Federer. Federer cried in the trophy ceremony. And he flies. They go on the flight to go back to Europe. And his dad says, your mom and I are not together anymore. And if anybody knows, after that, that's 2009. I'm saying 2008. It was 2009. And if anybody knows, 2009 was a tough year for Rafa. He lost his first ever match in the French Open. He, lost to Del Potro in the U.S. Open. He lost super early. I think he didn't even play Wimbledon, or he might have lost in the first 2 rounds. He took a lot of L's that year, and he didn't say it's because of that. But he said that he really affected him so much. That goes back to the importance of having people around you, having a good team around you. And I mean, he talked about so many things that he powered through, that he just woke a strong spirit in me.
That's awesome.
I read this book right before I reached I don't want to say but I reached high levels in tennis in my senior year. National rankings in doubles and singles. This guy motivated me so much. He powered through cramps, powered through lack of sleep, powered through so many things. So Rafa's autobiography, it's a New York Times bestseller. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Good stuff. I mean, I have one more question. Are you still going? I'm sorry.
No, that's all I had. I mean, that's all I had. These are cool books already. Yeah.
The second one's just a little for fun, but aliens. Do you believe in them or no?
Yes, bro. Yeah. Of course. I mean, not of course. Sorry. Like we said.
I mean, probability says yes, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even want to go into probability. Just we don't know it all, man. And what makes us think that as human beings? What makes us think that we're the smartest species here? No, nobody knows. We're smart enough to discover plenty of species around us and stuff. I believe that that extraterrestrial life exists and has. I want to even go to that I believe that they know we exist too.
I mean, you look at that evolution chart where we go from a monkey to this guy walking on. There's something up with that just doesn't sit right with me. Like, how does that happen? Maybe science tells you otherwise, but just from the eye test, I'm like, nah.
What about you? So you believe in aliens too?
I think so. Yeah, I think it has to be possible.
Here's my question to you: do aliens look the way we perceive them in movies and stuff, like that big head, big eyes, no neck kind of thing? Or do you think they can take any shape? Do you think they're more advanced than us?
I think if there is extraterrestrial out there and they've made it here, they're so advanced that we might not even see. I don't know. I can't even fathom what.
They could be in any shape.
Any shape, yeah.
They could, I guess, teleport, or whatever you say. Yeah, man, aliens more than likely exist. Yeah. And if they looked at us at this stage of humanity, they're probably laying back on their couches, laughing their ass off about.
I saw something that was you ever see two like pets arguing, like or like some chickens arguing. Like that's totally how they're looking at us right now in 2020. They're like, look at these people. Like they're not focused on the wrong things. But yeah,
I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you, and uh, I mean, I would love to hear my friends' take on that. I'll probably ask more guests if they
Oh, yeah.
believe in aliens, but yeah,
That's a good question,
most
man.
likely. Any other questions you got for me?
I did ask you one earlier. And I know
Yeah.
you had some time to think about it. So, if you had like one, like your dream podcast guest, who would it be?
If I had to pick one, it'll be difficult, but I thank you for letting me think about it.
Yeah.
But I would love to have an artist,
Yeah.
a creator of their craft, like you said, a master of what they do. I'm thinking Jay-Z because of how exclusive he is, and you know the way he articulates his thoughts and his words. And if anybody doesn't know, Jay-Z has never written a lyric before. He's got all that stuff stored in his head. So I would love to just have him and open up his mind, man. You know, ask him about that. Another person would be Dave Chappelle. That guy is, I don't even know how to put it, man. That guy is so amazing. The fact that he's Muslim, I recently discovered that, has even grown my love for him, because he's Muslim, but he still smokes, he still drinks,
Yeah.
you know, just
I didn't know he was Muslim.
I recently learned it on that what's that guy's show? Letterman? David
Okay.
Letterman? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he's cool, man. He's amazing for our society. He's an amazing leader. The piece that he did, the 8-minute 47, after the terrible 8 minutes of that, I don't even want to get too much into it because we've talked about it,
Yeah.
but after that terrible incident that we've all witnessed last year, he put a really, really deep piece together of
You're talking about the George Floyd, right?
the
Just,
George Floyd incident. Yes, thank you. I mean, Dave Chappelle would be an amazing guest. He would be an amazing guest, man. Kid Cudi. If I could have
Oh,
Kid
yeah.
Cudi with us, he would be amazing. I mean, what an amazing human being. This is what I'm thinking of right now. Just some
I
creators.
mean, all those names all the people you just named. I mean, they would be great choices. Like they're all people that they got their name through a certain craft, but like they broke barriers. Like Jay-Z was
Yes.
a rapper, right? But he was the first rapper that was like, yo, I'm gonna make $1 billion. I'm gonna own my stuff. Like he was like one of the pioneers for that.
100%.
Dave Chappelle. If you watched the first episode of the Chappelle Show,
Chappelle.
like that shit was. I'm sorry, excuse my language. That was so crazy that like if you're watching in 2020, 2021, like you can't believe that some of the stuff he put on there.
How real he was.
Yes, exactly.
Unbelievable,
But it was
man.
like real stuff going on, like exactly like you said. So those are good choices.
And bold too, and you know, like we talked about earlier, Kid Cudi is so influential in
Mhm.
today's music. We just take his art for granted. I'm so thankful for Kid Cudi, his songs, his craft, his
I mean,
art.
what he was one of the first artists to kind of openly talk about mental health. and
Exactly,
depression, so,
exactly,
yeah.
man. And I'm an advocate for just voicing that out. You know, making it normal, empowering each other through those conversations.
Nice.
Man, I really enjoyed doing this. I think we just hit like over an hour and 10 minutes.
Nice.
What's next for you, Marcus? What do you? We said your 9 to 5 is a commercial real. You're working in commercial real estate. What's the next few years looking like for you? And of course, you don't have to be attached to what you say today, but how do you perceive the next few years?
I mean, right now I'm focused on being 1% better every day, tightening the bolts on certain things that I see that I'm lacking, and then just, taking advantage of every opportunity. Like, I think I read something where it was like, the goddess of opportunity doesn't give to a man that's unprepared. I messed that up, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, just trying to stay prepared, trying to stay sharp so that when that opportunity comes, I can jump on it.
Yeah. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we could just finish on that. That was an amazing piece. Marcus, thank you for coming out, man. I look forward to do this again with you another time down the road. Everybody listening, thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful and that you take in a nugget out of it or several nuggets out of it. But thanks for listening. This Aussie had.